some of the NPCs were like, you know which one really got on my nerves?
Oh no, which one?
The Crybaby.
The Queen's Blood player?
What do you want?
The Crybaby.
So, okay,
I could not stand that. It was like nails on a chalkboard.
I'm gonna throw up.
That's just me, because I'm like one of those people like, someone needs to slap this kid in the face and tell him, like, get your life together.
Oh, what am I thinking? You look like you'd murder me.
Like, what is going on here?
But would you, okay, let me ask you a question though about the Crybaby. So I was on the fence at first too, and I'm like, I don't know what I think of this guy, because they're over actors, right?
People call me Crybaby Dad. Because the more tears I shed, the better I get in Queen's blood. Please play around with me.
So I'm already like biased against an NPC character that's played by an overactor. So I heard there was this overacting, and I'm like, whatever.
Never underestimate a crybaby.
But let me ask you this. Would you prefer just a normal, boring person, or do you like that they try to mix it up with these kind of ridiculous people that you play in Queen's Blood?
I don't know. Now that I think about it, it reminds me a lot. Like, again, I used to play like Magic with different people. And so like everybody has these different personalities, right? But like, I distinctly remember there being one individual who was, I don't know how to say this delicately. You knew how he would react emotionally to certain things.
Got it. Sensitive guy.
So if you
big heart, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know if that really is what it was, but the thing is, like, with a very skilled and like determined player who's not like an emotional player, they're going to close out the game as fast as they can.
Right.
But the thing with this guy was, because we all knew that like he was sort of like the Crybaby, but if we found ourselves like on the back foot, all we had to do was keep using delay tactics that would frustrate him, and it would end up causing him to make a mistake.
Oh my gosh.
And then we would close out the game on him.
Oh, that poor guy.
All the time.
I wonder how life is for that
but
guy.
I'm telling you, like, this is the same thing with poker, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the Venn diagram of Magic players and like professional poker players, there's a lot of overlap there for a specific reason, right? And this is one of them.
So then how does that make you feel about this Crybaby in the game now that you look back?
That's why he upset me, because that Crybaby sitting down at any World Series of Poker table would get taken out round one.
Well, he is like a level 1 player. He's not supposed to be any good. He's crappy.
Yes, and I realize, but I'm just saying, like, he annoyed me because, you know, I think now that you're making me psychoanalyze myself and this Crybaby, I'm thinking that the reason I hated him so much is because I wanted a challenge, not a Crybaby.
Okay.
Right.
You were already good at the game.
Well,
it sounds like you picked up on it pretty dang quick.
Really quick. Like within the first game, I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is and how to play it.
Okay, that's cool. It took me a little bit longer to kind of master it.
Now, the other one that you play later, I can't remember that NPC's name, where he's actually skilled at the game. That one was a lot more interesting. I enjoyed that more. But the Crybaby.
But you were like annoyed with the Crybaby.
I was annoyed by the character, but I was annoyed by the voice. The voice was just like this annoying.
It was
like,
over the top.
Nails on chalkboard. Like,
you're back.
If I could have just hacked him with a Buster Sword, I would have just done it right there.
I know there have been multiple times where I've tried to pull out my Buster Sword and just hack somebody annoying, and it doesn't let you in so many instances. Yeah. I'm like, dang it.
It's like when I was trying to fight that guy in Nibelheim, the martial arts expert that trained Tifa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me at this guy. Let me at him. But it wouldn't let me.
Yeah. So I want to touch on what you're saying about the Crybaby Queen's Blood player, because it totally plays into something that I really liked about the game in a way. So, okay. First, I want to set this up by saying, like, I thought Final Fantasy XVI was an amazing game in many ways. But one thing that it really lacked was levity. Like, there were very few moments in Final Fantasy XVI that were lighthearted.
Come on.
Or funny.
What's his name?
I mean, Sid.
You're not Sid, the drunk uncle. What's his name?
Oh, Uncle Byron?
There you go, Uncle Byron. That's one of my favorite
Uncle
characters.
He's not really in it a whole lot. Like, there's a lot of scenes.
You're right. He's not in there a whole lot, but every time he is, it's gold.
Take care, Clive. I have many more tales of your father's exploits to share. And I cannot very well do that if you're dead. Again.
Uncle Byron was funny.
Like, every scene is gold.
Okay, I thought Sid was the funniest.
Oh, sod. I'd invite him over for a cup of tea if I didn't think he'd eat the dog.
And then I think Uncle Byron and Gav were next on my list for humor. Mm-hmm. There's a few quips here and there in the stories from them, but it's 80 hours of gameplay, right? So it's not enough levity to just take away this heavy feeling in Final Fantasy XVI. Now, they were going for this like Game of Thrones heaviness, it seems like, when they were creating the game. So it seems intentional. But for me, serious scenes stand out so much better when they're weighed up against levity. Like if you have like lighthearted scenes, it makes the serious scenes that much more impactful. Whereas if you have everything on the same note, it doesn't play it as well as it could from an emotional standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, when I watched the trailers, and I mentioned this to you, you could tell that the game was going to be lighthearted in a lot of ways and try to be funny. And I was hopeful that it was going to be a win in humor and not cringy goofy, right? And there is cringy goofy in this
I was like,
game.
the Crybaby is cringy goofy.
Right.
For sure.
But like, I didn't know if it was going to win me over or not. So I love good humor. It's awesome when it's masterfully done, but it's, again, super awkward, super distracting when it falls flat and doesn't work. And I didn't know what to expect with Rebirth just based on the trailers. So I came into the game quite skeptical and came into chapter 2 quite skeptical, but hopeful at the same time. And then as I started to explore the town of Calm, there were a lot of NPCs that you could tell they were trying to be funny, or the writers were trying to make them funny. Some lines worked. Some other lines, though, made me roll my eyes like hardcore and did not win me over at all, right? So I was still on the fence as I was exploring Calm to see if like this was something I was going to jive with for the most part and see if the game would win me over. And you know, while a lot of the attempts at humor don't ace it for me throughout the game, through the 8 chapters I've played, I concluded during chapter 2 while exploring Calm that I love that the game just doesn't take itself too seriously. And the moment that I realized that I loved that was at a specific moment. I don't know if you remember this or even saw it, but when you're exploring Calm, you come across this Queen's Blood player woman who is surrounded by this wall of boxes and baskets. Did you see her?
No, I didn't run across her.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I even finished the actual Queen's Blood like side quest, like the numbered ones. I just got stuck playing against.
She was like hiding. Like I don't remember her even having.
I only played 2 people. I played the Crybaby and then this other one that was like an actually skilled player.
Oh, okay. There's another one you're missing out on that I can remember that's a kid voiced by an adult that drove me crazy.
A little birdie told me you can't get enough of that card game, Queen's Blood. Yeah, it's true.
But at the same time, they tried to give her personality, so I appreciated what they were trying to do with the writing. I just hate when adults voice children characters. Like it's ugh to me. Okay, but this Queen's Blood player, she's sitting with her Queen's Blood board and she's surrounded by cardboard boxes, like all the 4 sides of her. Mm-hmm. And you could tell you just want to run and kick them all over, right? But she's talking about how glorious this stupid box wall around her is and how safe it makes her feel.
What a glorious wall, keeping us safe and secure. I could gaze at it all day.
And it's so over the top and stupid. And I was laughing so hard because obviously the whole point of this scene is to invite you to just go and destroy this wall that she loves so much in order to play her in Queen's Blood. And she says something to the effect of like, excuse me, you kind of destroyed the wall I love.
Excuse me. That was my barricade you just destroyed.
I don't know. The scene was funny, but the thing that made that scene so much funnier to me was the fact that it existed at all. Like the developers had deliberately put this stupid, interactive, ridiculous scene in the game, leaning so hard into this like obvious hilarity of how Cloud can interact with boxes and barrels and like all kinds of things, and they don't hurt him at all, but they go flying, you know? It was just so ridiculous. I laughed out loud, and that was the moment where I think I felt in on the joke. And so I concluded at that moment that I had permission not to take the game too seriously and to just kind of lean back and laugh at stupid crap like this. And
eventually I'll go back and find that individual, but
there's a lot more of this kind of stuff that is in different chapters after this that you'll see that kind of hits the same note. And while some of it is a little awkward, I would say that for the most part, the humor and the levity is refreshing.
You don't want to startle your prey.
Prey? You know we're not here to kill him, right?
And I'm glad they put it in, even if it isn't perfect.
You know, they are kind of similar.
Totally.
I don't know. For me, and I get it, like they have to take into account they have a very diverse audience with all different kinds of like viewpoints and stuff. But like for me, JRPGs are business. Like when you sit down and like you start to play, there's a mission, there's some calamity happening, and it's time to get to business and fix it. Like joking around, we don't have time for that. So like for me, I just, it doesn't work for me, but
so you don't like the humor?
Not really. Like, I don't want to make it sound like.
No, that's interesting because I thought in our last conversation that I was going to be the one that was harsh on the humor and you were going to be like all in because you loved Kate Sith in the original game, right? And he's like super dumb. Like,
well, that's why, because that's almost like a slapstick kind of thing.
Yeah. But so is like running over a bunch of boxes around some random girl.
I mean, that's true. But, you know, for some reason, like, certain humor is okay to me and others isn't. I think when it like detracts from advancing the story, you know, there's always going to be one stupid character.
Multiple, usually.
Kate Sith is one of my favorite characters, like for sure, in the original 7. But I think in that era, games were a little bit more cartoony back then.
Yeah.
And so they just felt a little more lighthearted, even though it was like, you know, 7 was a serious game.
Heavy themes.
Like in Final Fantasy, there's like some areas that are very serious. And like you said, some that are trying to be a little bit more humorous to try to, you know, get a balance in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good thing in general. But for some reason, like the humor, at least to me, comes at like the most inopportune times.
You just wait. You're in chapter 4 and there's a moment we have to talk about in chapter 4.
It reminds me of 15. Like in 15, a lot of the levity happened like when they were sitting around the campfire and like, that's like an area where that can happen. But could you imagine like they're in the middle of a boss fight and somebody starts cracking jokes? It's like, hey.
Well, they kind of do that in 15, though.
They
Prompto's cracking jokes constantly during all the battles.
Well, yeah, that's how Ignis lost his eyes, because he was playing around instead of paying attention to what he was doing.
No, Ignis never plays around. He's perfect.
He's perfectly blind. But this is what I'm saying.
Stop hating on my Ignis.
And this is why I appreciate Barrett so much in this game. Like, I keep going back to Barrett. It's like, Barrett is like the stereotypical and the prototypical leader. He's like business. And even when he gets excited, he like quickly reins himself in.
Pick a direction and start walking. Left, your left, right.
Well, that's humor, though. So you like that kind of humor. You don't like the slapstick. Okay, so.
Although when Kate Sith comes in this game, I'm interested to see what they do with that character. I really am.
Well.
Because in the trailer, he was already like awkward in the trailer. Right. So I was like, oh man, this is going to be great.
He's one of the things that worried me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, it's so over the top, right? But I've given myself permission to just accept the goofiness for the most part. Some of it I don't accept, and we'll talk about that as it comes.
Yeah.
But in chapter 2, I think it was fine. I will say, though, I am super excited that you didn't love some of the humor because I really am excited for you to see other scenes.